They're American heroes on four legs, bomb-detecting canines, trained and tested in Northern Virginia, but then sent across the globe to help fight terrorism.
But an investigation by our News 4i team is raising questions about what happens to some of those dogs after they leave this country. As
our Scott McFarland discovered, there are multiple federal investigations into whether the State Department is doing enough to ensure these well-trained dogs are well cared for overseas.
A terror attack targeting a place Americans travel. 5 killed as gunmen stormed a hotel in the nation of Mali. But before the death toll climbed higher, Mali police fought back. Police trained by the U.S. State Department.
The one thing we learned from 9/11 is the fact that we need partners.
Former State Department diplomatic security official Frank Taylor is describing the agency's Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, or ATA. Created in 1983, the program teaches more than 150 other nations, including Mali, how to fight terror.
We wanted to make sure they had world-class capability globally.
That capability includes 100 bomb-sniffing canines provided by the State Department to countries like Jordan, as shown in this video posted by the U.S. Embassy there.
This gift the U.S. gives, do you think it saved lives?
Oh, I would be surprised if it hasn't, absolutely.
Former State Department official Jerry Firestein says America provides the canines and the training to improve relationships with those countries and help protect Americans everywhere.
The dogs are fabulous.
Which is why it's so striking to hear this.
You concerned some of those dogs are not well cared for?
I know some of those dogs are not well cared for. Come on, good boy.
Karen Iovino was a veterinarian at the K9 Validation Center in Winchester, Virginia, where the dogs are certified and trained. It was a job she loved until she received warnings from foreign contacts that some of the dogs overseas were being overworked.
They're not being fed properly. They're not receiving flea and tick preventative. Tick diseases are rampant in warmer climates and can actually kill a dog.
An email Karen shared with the I-Team from a former colleague details the suspected heat stroke death of a canine sent to Jordan in summer 2017. She also provided a photo the I-Team could not independently verify that she says depicts underweight animals in that country's care.
Unfortunately, we're sending dogs to an area of the world that has a lot of poverty and doesn't always see dogs, or animals for that matter, the way we do in the United States.
Iovino blew the whistle in 2017, filing an internal complaint with the State Department detailing a series of allegations against the contractor that helps run the canine program, as well as her concerns the dogs weren't being properly cared for overseas. A complaint she believes led to her firing.
You said something about the dogs and you were fired.
Correct.
The contractor running that Winchester facility declined an interview with the I-Team, citing a confidentiality agreement with the State Department. But court filings showed they reject and deny any retaliation claims. Our review found Karen isn't the only one, though, with concerns about the State Department canines. The U.S. House Oversight Committee launched a review of the Canine Center in Winchester last year, asking the State Department to hand over all agreements with recipients of the dogs through the Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program. And the U.S. State Department Inspector General tells News 4 it's launched its own review of the health and welfare of states' overseas explosive detection canines. The State Department itself declined to comment, citing the ongoing Inspector General review. The Embassy of Jordan has not yet responded to the I-Team's inquiries. Karen says she hopes the reviews will lead to better standards of care for the four-legged heroes.
If we're going to gift a dog to a country, we need to make sure that they're taken care of.
The State Department's Office of the Inspector General has issued this scathing report of the Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, finding too many dogs sent abroad are overworked, underfed, and have suffered preventable deaths on the job. Amid civil war in Syria, the State Department sent four-legged soldiers to Jordan to track down explosives. But when 2-year-old Zoe died in service, it wasn't from a bomb, but heat stroke, a preventable illness one veterinarian described as a terrible death. Mency, a 3-year-old sent to Jordan, became so sick from a tick-borne disease he had to be euthanized. Then there's Athena, who was found severely emaciated less than 1 year after her arrival in that same country, all according to an internal inspection at the State Department.
If you found an animal over here suffering that way, the owner would be charged with cruelty.
Nancy Blaney is with the D.C.-based Animal Welfare Institute. We showed her our original report and the new investigation into the program that's deployed more than 100 explosive detection dogs to partner countries.
I understand that the animals become the property of the host country, so we then lose a lot of control over what happens.
Come on, good boy.
The findings come as no surprise to veterinarian Karen Iavino, who spoke with the I-Team in an interview in February.
A year and a half later, I still lose sleep over the dogs that I sent overseas.
Iavino used to work for the State Department contractor at this office park in Winchester, the contractor that trains the dogs in the U.S. She warned the I-Team something was wrong with the State Department's explosive detection canine program due to a lack of oversight overseas.
I did have a Jordanian mentor confide in me that he had evidence that the dogs were not being cared of, and he actually provided some pictures of an emaciated dog.
The State Department's Office of Inspector General found similar problems, with its investigators finding an alarming number of deaths, neglect cases, and a lack of written standards between the U.S. and its partner countries. The problem appears to be the worst in Jordan, which the report says has received at least 100 U.S. trained dogs in the past decade and lost at least 10 from preventable disease. In 2016, federal contractors saw dogs dying of disease and heat-related illness, overworked dogs, and barely existent kennel sanitation. Many needed to be retired and replaced immediately, and several had lost the will to work.
If they're going to do their jobs, they can't do them if they are sick.
Inspectors found little progress being made to fix the problems Jordan has with U.S. trained dogs and their own, and recommended the U.S. State Department stop providing dogs until conditions improve.
But here at the State Department, they say that's not possible due to what they call national security-related efforts to protect America's interests. The agency's told the Inspector General they've already taken steps to address these concerns. Last November, issuing new procedures for canine care, welfare checks, and retirement guidelines.
Citing our initial report in February, the U.S. House Oversight Committee ordered the State Department inspectors to provide a briefing on their investigation. And just today, Senator Mark Warner of Virginia asked Secretary Mike Pompeo to report his plans to improve the program. Its oversight, Nancy Blaney says, is a matter of life and death.
If we sent, anybody overseas without ensuring that they were going to be taken care of, I think there would be a great hue and cry, and I think there seems to be a hue and cry over this.
The federal contractor that trains the dogs for service declined comment for our story, but a spokesperson for the Embassy of Jordan says the country takes the welfare of its security working dogs very seriously and is investigating.
Earlier this year, we revealed bomb-sniffing canines trained locally and deployed overseas were dying of neglect by their foreign handlers. Now the State Department says it's ordering major changes amid revelations even more dogs have perished than previously thought. To war-torn Afghanistan and other countries, including Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt, the U.S. State Department has been sending locally trained canines to sniff for explosives at checkpoints and airports and other sensitive places, all part of the war on terror. But earlier this year, we revealed the danger facing these dogs wasn't just the bombs.
Tragedy didn't need to happen because basic care should have been in place.
Dogs dying of heat stroke and another of a tick-borne disease in Jordan, due to a lack of care by the nation's handlers. That's according to an internal inspection in September.
It's a good girl, Lulu.
Kitty Block of the Humane Society of the United States says stronger safety measures should have been ordered long ago.
They shouldn't go anywhere where there is not going to be guaranteed care for them.
And that may be changing as the State Department has announced it will temporarily stop deploying dogs to Jordan and Egypt after a new report found 5 more dogs have died there since 2018. From problems including heat stroke, cancer, ruptured gallbladder, and one from poisoning by an insecticide sprayed near its kennel. The State Department also says it previously kicked a third nation out of the program for neglect, but won't specify which one. It says it's making other improvements to the program, including securing written commitments from other countries that outline canine care and funding additional health and welfare visits.
I needed to say something.
Karen Iavino, a former veterinarian for the State Department contractor that trains the dogs in Winchester, Virginia, revealed concerns about the welfare of these dogs to News 4 earlier this year.
The burden that I feel as far as responsibility for the dogs that I sent overseas still weighs on me.
She worried the government wasn't doing enough to ensure the dog's safety or being transparent about the risks. The latest Inspector General report indicates the same. It says the State Department knew of the most recent canine deaths but didn't disclose them to inspectors earlier this year. Animal welfare groups say without that whistleblower who spoke to News 4, some of these deaths and dangers might have continued unchecked.
It's not always easy to stand up and say something and do something that's right. You know it's going to be hard, but it's the right thing to do.
The Embassy of Egypt here in Washington did not respond to multiple requests for comment, but a spokeswoman for the Jordanian government says the country takes the reports very seriously and is working with U.S. authorities to implement new standards of care. As of tonight, there are still about 135 canines still serving in about 8 countries through the Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program.